Yeah, what up, YouTube? It's June the 26th. The library closed not too long ago. But yeah, as far as Karrine, yeah, so she got the little phone call from David. So she went to go check the unit that she wanted to move into. Now, even though she had a little bit of money or whatever by this point, she still realized she was short. And it's still like around November. So like she paid $500 for deposit and then another $1,900. And then she also had other bills that she had other fees that she had to consider, such as moving, etc. So this guy Bruce, that she was trying her best not to really lean on or talk to. She felt like she was put in a position to where she had no choice if she wanted to help, even though she was still talking to this guy Taj at this point because it was cool, or they had got back cordial. So she got in contact with this guy Bruce, and he gave her about $2,000. I think it was about $2,000, but it was kind of funny the way she did it, right? She got in contact with him, and of course, that this whole relationship between him and her should have to give him some ass and shit like that. But this time around, she kind of flipped it. The way that she wrote it in her book, it's like she made it seem like he was the one beating around the bush as far as like what the relationship consisted of. And she said the times that she had to lean on him for help, she wished he would just come out and be like, listen, give me some ass and I'll pay you this, instead of making it more than what it is. But, prior to this, as far as what I read, and from her words, and I'm not taking up from this guy, it seemed like she really didn't want to call the relationship that, it seemed like she'll be the one to kind of dress it up, because she was saying, like, as far as the arrangements between him and her, that's the way that he made it seem like it was just a sexual thing. So at this point, I'm like, damn, she kind of like going in reverse with it as far as like the classification of the relationship, and making it seem like he didn't necessarily accept it or wasn't as honest as far as what their relationship actually consisted of. Anyhow, he agreed to help her, but he told her, he was like, look, this Intercontinental Hotel, you can meet me there. Now, because she really didn't want to fuck with dude like that, she knew she'd have to give him some ass. And also considering like when she first had to move, or she was trying to get money from him, the last time around when he gave her $2,000 instead of $2,800, she knew what this whole meeting would be about. So she said in her book she decided to be a little slick with it. This guy Bruce, he didn't expect for her to bring her son Naeem with him. So what she did was, the day that she went toward this little hotel or whatever that he was at, and mind you, this guy Bruce had a girlfriend, by the way, but he was in like a long distance relationship. His girlfriend was in another state, and according to Karrine, she kind of like had her own life. So as far as like the sexual aspect, that was definitely a void that Karrine filled. But anyway, so this particular day she decided to drive to where this guy Bruce was at to get this money. He didn't know that she was gonna bring her shorty not really a shorty at this point, he's still young. He didn't know that she was gonna bring Naeem. So she had Naeem in the car, and on her way there, which took about 2 hours altogether, she was saying like the guy kept texting her, trying to see what the progress was. Either texting her or phone call or calling her, but either way, he was trying to see what the progress was. So she kept him up to date. So by the time she got to the hotel, she went upstairs or whatever, and she knocked on his door. He opened the door, and she had a smirk on her face because he was surprised to see her son, Naeem. And he's like, oh, hey, how you doing? And so he asked for her to come in, for them to come into the apartment. She was like, nah, I gotta hurry up, I don't have time to stay. I got something else to do or whatever. So in other words, she had said that it was a test, it was a test to where, like, because he was expecting some ass in exchange for the money, if she showed up with her son, then she wouldn't have to give him no ass. She'll give him an excuse like, I got to go somewhere. But if he got mad and decided not to give her the money, then that would be proof in itself of what he really thought about Karrine. And being that, he was supposed to have been fronting based on her words, it'll make him look real bad. So he had no choice but to give her the money. He gave her the $2,000. And then she left. So eventually she moved into her crib that very month. And I think she said it was like a day before Thanksgiving, because she had promised her son that they'll have a place to stay, instead of just living in the hotel by the time, Thanksgiving came. So that was fulfilled. All right, keep in mind, YouTube, she had that $11,000 residual check that she had. So by the time, December? Yeah, by the time December came, she was fucking broke. Now I'm like, okay, by December or January, because she said in her book it was 3 months after she had received this check. Oh yeah, also I forgot to mention, as far as like, she did get some type of TV deal, some network deal for her book, Confessions. Now I was kind of confused on that, because prior to this I understand as far as like the Vixen manual, and her wanting to translate that into some type of TV show or whatnot. But as far as like the confessions and this deal she got from this TV network, I didn't understand it. I'm like, I don't know if that's for like an episode, if it's for some type of series. I didn't get that, because she didn't go too much into it, but it was like some type of it was called an option continual deal or something like that. When I looked those words up, that little phrase, and I didn't come across anything, so I don't really too much understand that. But that deal had came through, and so by the time, and also she did point out the fact that she was still suffering from writer's block and all that. So anyway, by the time December came, she was broke. And so I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, you get this little $11,000 check. How the fuck, a month later, you broke? That didn't make sense to me. So, I'm trying to think, was it December or January? I'm going to say December for now. If it's January, I'll correct it by the time I get done with this. But I'm like, you got $11,000. I understand you got to pay $1,900. You already paid $500, so altogether that'd be $2,400. So these little bills that you got to pay now, the apartment that she moved into, I'm assuming it's not, it's not like a mortgage. She ain't paying $6,000 fucking dollars a month like she did before, or even $10,000 a month when it increased. And by this time, again, this is only like a month later if this happened in December, what I'm about to point out, or 2 months later if it happened in January. How the fuck are you broke? Now, she didn't say anything about sniffing coke, at this point in her book. In fact, she was doing pretty decent as far as mentally is concerned. But she got broke, and she said, okay, well, the guy Bruce, he agreed to go ahead and, take care of her little bills and expenses until she get decent or whatnot. Thing is, she was kind of like playing little mind games and shit with her, because, let me see, this is like I said, if it's December, it was like early December. Actually, this occurred in, December, I think. I'm going to say December for now. Earlier that month, he agreed to pay her bills. So, shit, by the time the 26th came, I think she said her landlord, he got a little impatient, So she sent a dude text messages the whole fucking month, phone calls and everything, and he ain't responding. So he finally responded to a text she sent when she got real up front with him. She was like, listen, you know, you say you agreed to pay my bills and help me out. You know, I feel like you're playing little games and this and that. You know, either you're going to help me out or you're not going to help me out. She was real blunt. So he finally, you know, responded to it. And she was like, you know, they bantered. Now, I got a little confused on that, too, because I know what banter means. Banter means, like, witty and shit. Just being witty. You know, throwing a little wit back and forth. So I'm like, okay, maybe she trying to say, you know, they was arguing, but it was just, like, nonsensical, you know, witty-ass fucking comments back. Like, just bullshitting with each other's back and forth, even though she had a real concern, but probably bullshitted back with him because he bullshitted with her, giving excuses. But by the end of the conversation, you know, after she let him know how she felt, he came, not correct, but he came a little bit more truthful. And he was like, well, because she mentioned this, you know, the first time when she had to get money from him, when she was moving out her apartment, or when she was trying to get the rent before she moved out, and he only gave her ass $2,000 instead of $2,800. So she referenced that time. So he finally came clean, according to her, and he was like, well, you know what? I ain't want to pay for another basically, he didn't want to give her the $2,800. He told her is because he felt like he'll be benefiting Aaron at the same time, somebody else that she messing with on the side. So he had an issue with that. And, you know, that kind of, I ain't gonna say it kind of got to her, but, you know, she made a little note of it. And so, let me see, it touched her, it fucked with her, and let me see, after that, he went ahead and paid for that month, but then she got lucky later on. Now, this occurred in February. Now, she got lucky around this time because her little residual check kicked in. She got a residual check plus the money from this little TV deal or this little network deal that she got. So she said she was in a little better space to where she wouldn't have to rely on Bruce as much. And she made it a pact with herself to where she'll try her best not to fall back financially to the point where she'll have to rely on dude because she hated doing that. So she, let me see, February, that's when she finally got this little book deal. Well, not really a book deal, but she published the book. Before that, she was working on it for a little second because, like I mentioned, like that little 10-day period where she was suffering from, you know, the little argument she had with Taj when he told her she was a loser and she claimed she was catatonic, you know, and then, like, after that 10-day period, she got up and she was able to write. Well, the literature that she was writing at the time was for this book called How to Make Love with a Martian. Now, that book is supposed to be about Lil Wayne. But, you know, she claimed she had a little issue, you know, trying to get, like, a publisher for it because she didn't want it. It wasn't meant for her to make a lot of money off of it because it was supposed to be personal. But by the time February came, you know, she finally got the book somehow published. Now, I can't remember if she said she did it herself. I think she did it through her managers or whatnot because before this, remember, she was, you know, trying to research to learn how to publish her writings herself rather than going through a middleman. So, anyway, she got that shit published, put forth in February. You know, usually her books would be about $24, $25. This book, she said, was about $2.99, so only like $3, in which I might get in the future and read and check it out. But so that happened. Okay, from that point forward, she was definitely maintaining her space and her health as far as her mind. And again, like I said, she had a little bit more money to keep her and her son decent. So then a little bit later, around like May, like the divorce that I mentioned as far as Nigel, remember, like, she first gave him those papers in March of 2012. And she had mentioned that it took a little bit over a year for that divorce to be finalized. So here it is, it's 2013. So by the time May comes, that's when the divorce was finalized. And she said that was like a little edgy, crazy little process as well, because a lot of papers was incomplete and they had to, you know, do a lot of backtracking basically, but everything was pretty much set in stone in May, so she was free from him. So that'd be her second divorce at this point. Now, as far as the summer, she said she pretty much enjoyed it, but she took it as a time for her to get her brand up, because her and Taj was still close friends at this point, and she still took inspiration from what he had going on and his ambition. So she set up a company called Karrine Incorporated. Now, as a matter of fact, on YouTube, she got a YouTube channel, even though she didn't post nothing up recent. I think the last video she posted up probably was in 2016 at the latest. I don't think she got anything in 2017. But the YouTube channel she got is under that very fucking name as well, Karrine Incorporation or something, or Incorporated, Karrine and Co. So I'm assuming that's short for corporation or incorporated. So she was working on that, and she was talking about, like, as far as like a brand and how she understood the broader definition of a brand. It's not just having a few items, this and that. So her little summer was kind of like wrapped around that as well. Now, as far as like, trying to publish a book, she said she still had little issues in that area because basically, like, people or companies and publishers, like, her worth was pretty much tied to the first literature that she put out that was real successful, which is Confessions. So, like, a lot of people, they'll turn her down, but those who may give it a little bit more thought, they kept suggesting to her that she'll throw a lot of big names in there, have a lot of juicy shit to talk about, to where, like, the way that she wanted to write her shit, she wanted to make it a little bit more personal. And basically, she didn't want to come with something that could be perceived as a gimmick. Kind of like making love to a Martian. If her love for Lil Wayne was sincere and genuine, then that book, or what that book encompasses as far as the literature, it wouldn't be like a gimmick. You know what I'm saying? So she didn't want to tailor her shit to that which made her successful in the first place. And again, aside from what she put in this book, Vindicated, you could tell in those interviews, when people bring up past shit like Superhead and all that, she do get a little irritated because she kind of like want to be seen in a more broader sense. What, because this is short. I finished the book today, so I'm going to go ahead and put some extra shit up in there. Kind of like something that Marv once said. He's a battle rapper. It's a little old throwback interview. And, he first, started, a lot of his shit was jokey. Like, he watched them little HBOs and the little battles with Immaculate Thesaurus and people like that. WRC, a lot of it, it was kind of like cracking jokes. He was real comical. So he was saying he wanted to kind of branch away from that, but a lot of his fans, they kept saying they wanted to see him in that light more so. And then he mentioned, like, even though you could do more, it's unfortunate because people used to seeing you a certain way. The same thing with Karrine. So you take that little principle, you apply it to, how she want people to perceive her and what she want to bring to the table as far as her writings or whatnot. She don't want to just talk about famous motherfuckers that she seen and fucked and been around, etc. She want to get a little bit more personal than that. But it's like, again, as far as like the writers, not writers, but the publishers and people like that, they looking at it from a business standpoint. They want her to put something forth that they feel like may sell books. Especially if she gonna end up getting advances and stuff like that. So she had a hard time, and eventually, I think I'm gonna say she kind of gave in, because she mentioned that's when she started, or where the inspiration for this book itself, Vindicated, comes from. So I'm gonna say like she kind of gave in eventually, and she actually, somewhat needed the money. So let me see. October came, and October the 26th is when she got her deal, a publishing deal, and she got a nice little amount of money for that. You know what I'm saying? So a little later after that, before I go further, I also want to point out, the point that I just made as far as like how she wanted to present herself and what she wanted to write about. She did also mention that the first book, Confessions of a Video Vixen, was actually not the first book she wanted to publish. The Vixen Manuals is what she wanted to publish initially. But, it turns out the Confessions of a Video Vixen is what she published. Now, as far as her second book, she said she wanted to publish the Vixen Diaries. But again, she ended up not the Vixen Diaries. She wanted to publish the Vixen Manuals. But she ended up publishing the Vixen Diaries. And, she said the editor threatened to take back her $250,000 bonus if she didn't unveil who this character was, this guy named Papa, that she wrote about in her first book, which I never read, but this is what she said. Some guy named Papa that she wrote about in her first book, which was a fake moniker or alias to cover up the real name. But, she was forced to unveil who this person was, or she had a little, $250,000 taken away. So she went ahead and did that. So that goes back to the point that I made as far as like, the business aspect and that which bounds her. That's why I believe in complete fucking independence. Fuck all that. Anyway, so yeah, October came and she got a book deal. Her publishing deal. So a little later after that, she pointed out as far as like her and Taj, how they still was in like a good relationship with each other as far as like a bond, and they continue to grow closer. She didn't say too much as far as like them being intimate. She didn't say they was fucking. You know what I'm saying? She didn't say they was like on the verge of getting married, but she did say, she fell in love with him. But that happened with a lot of other people, and she was saying like the same thing about him. When she first met him, like a month after that. So I don't really put too much into that. Same thing with that guy Aaron. When she first met him, well, not first met him, but when they first started talking, like all these people that she mentioned, she always take this great liking to. So I don't know. I wouldn't say they was like together like that. Same thing with Lil Wayne. And she made a comparison. She was like, okay, she loved him unconditionally just as much as Lil Wayne as well. But so she was still in the good space. Then she got a call from Aaron, either a call or a text message. And she said this was December the 4th. And he was like, I need to talk, or we need to talk before we do something that we both gonna regret. Eventually, they got to talking to each other, and they decided to meet up at a restaurant to talk or whatever. Now, the day that they met up, she said it was December the 15th. No, I might be messing. No. It wasn't December 4th. It was December 15th, I believe, when he sent her that message. But when they met up, it was December 19th. So they met up at this little restaurant, right? And hold on, let me show my shit again. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so they met up at this little restaurant. He basically was trying to get back with her, telling her, relation's fucked up. Of course, when they agreed, when they sat down and they was talking, they was like, okay, you look good. She told him, she gave him a compliment, talking about, his skin looked pretty good, that he esteemed himself or whatever. He was like, yeah. But when they really got into the conversation, he was basically just complaining about his life situation, talking about, I should have stayed with you. And, he also mentioned that he lost his son, Jonah. He lost custody of Jonah. Jonah had ended up back in Chicago with his biological mother at this point. His biological mother, his fucking stepdad, which was his biological mother's husband at this point. And then they also he had like 4 or 5 other kids that was incorporated into the family. So 6 of them all together. So he lost Jonah due to a court battle. But it was the Chicago court system that granted his baby mama her rights back to Jonah. So he mentioned all that. And so he told Karrine, I want you to be my wife again, this and that, woo woo. So she, she said, she looked him in his eyes and she basically told him, that's not gonna happen. You feel like you need me because it'll be beneficial for you, blah, blah, blah. And based on this whole little conversation that we had, the only thing you mentioned is you haven't really mentioned. I'm trying to remember her exact words, because she was saying like it was a one way, like all he was saying is what she could do for him or something like that. But anyway, based on his words, she knew that he was other than sincere. And so she rejected all of his suggestions for them to get back together or whatnot. So by the end of the conversation, he walking her to a car, and she said he poured off some money and shit, and he gave her about $300. So he gave her a little $300. She took it. He was trying to kiss her. She was moving away, and basically they departed ways. And this is at the end of the book, and she said like that was the end of their relationship as far as her and Aaron. Now, that's it. Then she goes into a conclusion, and basically within this conclusion, she pointed out my assessment. The same thing. She pointed out, the reason that she wrote the book pretty much. How she wanted to be a little bit more personal with it. And the lessons that she learned and all the mistakes that she made, and how she came up with a new formula. That way, whatever that comes up in her life, she'll be able to deal with the consequences of that. So like when something comes up in her life, she'll be like, okay, and then what? So in other words, like, how would this snowball to help or hurt me? What would be the effect of this? That's what that and then what means. So that was like one of her little formulas that she decided to go by. And like I said, she said she learned from her mistakes, and that's about it. So that's the end of the book. So I thought it was a pretty good read. Like I say, that if I choose to read another book from her, it might be the How to Make Love to a Martian. Because she bring up Lil Wayne so much. And, just like all her little ordeals that she had so far, I'm like, this nigga got millions of fucking dollars. And I ain't trying to be harsh. I'm like, shit, if y'all got that much love for each other, and it's so unconditional, and the majority of the time when you go see him, he seemed to welcome you as much or yearn for your presence in his life. I'm like, shit, you shouldn't be struggling. But I could see, like, she might say something like, she don't want him to know about everything that she goes through. But still, that doesn't even fucking matter. Like, the money that she would be short, that which she would lack, is not hundreds of thousands of fucking dollars. That would be pennies in Lil Wayne's pocket. So that's like one of my main criticisms, big criticisms. So I feel like if I read that book sometime in the future, How to Make Love to a Martian, and it's supposed to pertain to Lil Wayne, really, I might get a little bit more hints and insight. So that's it. It was like I said, it was a pretty good book. I didn't expect to read it. I was just in the library that particular day, and I'm just randomly looking at books that I wanted to read while I charged my phone up, and I'm looking at the name and I see Vindicated. I was like, oh shit, it's Karrine Steffans' book. At first I thought it was Confessions. I thought it was her first book, but it was Vindicated. I'm like, let me check it out. Start reading. I'm like, it's not bad. And I wasn't going to do no type of recordings about it. I was just going to read the fucking book, and that's it. But when I read the book, I thought it was so interesting. As I'm walking down the street, I'm like, yeah, let me just speak on this shit. This is different than what I've been paying attention to so far. But I'll go ahead and do something and see how it turns out. And I don't really regret it. So again, it's June 26th. I got this on my YouTube channel, my second channel, which is more like a shadow channel. But I'm gonna take all of those blogs and I'm gonna repaste it on my main YouTube channel, which is Johnny Fraction. Channel that I just mentioned, that's kind of like a back channel, like a shadow channel. It's Johnny Fract, F-R-A-C-T. The main one is Johnny Fraction, J-O-H-N-N-Y, and then F-R-A-C-T-I-O-N. The full spelling of my actual last name. So it's like, this will be the 11th one. So I'm gonna take all of these and I'm gonna repost them, and I'm gonna repost them on my original channel, more than likely tomorrow on the 27th. Then after that, go back to what the fuck I've been paying attention to. What the majority of my blogs that I have unveiled on YouTube been about. Till then, YouTube, like I say, this is just me. This ain't doing nobody's homework or nothing like that. If somebody was happy, or somebody happened to be doing a book report or some shit, you know what I mean? Whether you, I don't know where the fuck you might be at, but it don't matter. In this whole entire fucking country, this is not intended to do nobody's fucking homework. This is just an interesting subject that I randomly decided to spend a little time on, and I'm glad I did. But again, the 26th, y'all have a good night.